Okay, so today we are going to be breaking down, analyzing, discussing episode 1 of Bridgerton season 3, a little bit more in depth. The reintroduction of Whistledown this season gives her a new take. She's like period girl boss, feminist empowerment, female empowerment queen, which I think is probably going to serve her better than tearing people down. But yeah, Pen was pleased with herself looking around, seeing all these girls be happy at the compliment. But I like to see it. So then we go to Bridgerton house, much as I assumed. Hyacinth and Gregory get their little lines, although actually I found both of them to be very characteristic of both of them, and I was like, oh my god, I actually can't wait for their seasons. Kate is the only Bridgerton with a brain cell confirmed, that's canon, by this, and she married into the family, so there's a really, really sweet moment between Francesca and Antony where he basically is like teasing her a little bit, but complimenting her, boosting her up a little bit. She has a little demure smile, but you can tell like that sibling connection is very, very evident, as well as Francesca's personality, plus the fact that she had gone down here without anybody noticing and was so kind of against the norm and like playing piano and just chilling out, having an early breakfast. She's seeing this debutante presentation as just any other day, which is not normal. That really sets her apart from her family and kind of her introverted nature. But again, I think this first interaction with her family, you can tell that she fits into the family and they all have good relationships, but it also makes Francesca pretty distinct from the rest of her family. Then we go outside. I mean, we've seen my reaction to this scene many times. It was in the trailer.
Brother.
Well, I have to laugh. But, you know, Miss Girl over here is dropping her glove. Well, actually, she's removing it with her teeth and dropping it on the ground. Y'all are nasty for that. Like, I mean, propriety aside, think about the hygiene. You know what I mean? Like, you have no idea where these gloves have been. You definitely don't know where Colin's red leather gloves have been. And I'm not just talking about geographically, okay? Like, that is so crazy. I hate to say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous because he is so ill when he, like, kisses her hand, but the look is a slay. It is a slay. It is. The jacket, it is. The unbuttoned shirt, the dark navy unbuttoned shirt, the red leather gloves. Don't perceive me. It's a look. It's a look. The hair is elite as well. So for the intro, I noticed a few new things. Obviously, they entered Colin's name into the parchment writing, whereas it was Daphne before and then Antony. That made me weirdly emotional. I was like, oh, Colin. They also have a new quill writing, which obviously is indicative of Lady Whistledown. They have a butterfly, which is the Featherington sigil. A lot of Penelope's outfits have a lot of like hidden Easter eggs of butterflies. And also the hot air balloon, because that's their set piece for whatever reason. Because that's what they've chosen as their set piece. So we have a little graphic of that, and those are the new graphics added. The rest are familiar to us. Then we're in the carriage on the way to the presentation. Colin's changing. I just have to say, also, all three of them look so good. It's really a crime against humanity, and they should pay. It's just not okay. It's not okay for them to look this good. Especially all at once. Especially in such a tightly enclosed space. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? But a line that I found very interesting was Colin basically saying he didn't want to bore them with his travels.
I shall not bore you with details.
And refusing to elaborate on them, whereas that was his entire arc in season 2. That was all he did. All he did was talk about his travels, so much so that they all teased him, made fun of him, remarked on it many times, insulted him about it. Like, that was his shtick in season 2. So it's interesting that he's coming back fresh from season 3 and refusing to even talk about it at all. And rightfully so, Antony goes, who are you? I don't know who this man is. What have you done with my brother? It's very much that energy. He obviously wants to talk about his travels, but he has been made to feel like he shouldn't, or that he would be more likable if he didn't. You guys, not the bee on Benedict's waistcoat. They can't keep getting away with this. What do you mean? Stop putting bees on this poor family's wardrobe, okay? I highly doubt they're like, cool representing their father's murderer all the time. You know what I mean? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? I know it's like a wink wink to like book fans and audiences, but I'm like, it simply is very jarring to me every time I see it. So in the presentation, this was very interesting. They definitely went with different shot composition and editing, which I thought was a really smart choice because this is how we've begun 3 seasons now. So we've seen the whole spiel of getting presented and bowing and the queen receiving you and all that type of stuff. We've seen that so many times now that they did need to do something to make it a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. So they had a shot looking upward, like from the point of view of the ground while the girls were bowing, as well as an overhead. bed, and then a sharp cut to all of them exiting immediately, and so that saved time. It was efficient. It showed that the queen wasn't interested in any of them, and it just showed a new perspective. I thought it was a really subtle detail that was really smart, because it can get super repetitive if it's just the exact same thing over and over and over again. Also, we see the first look at a deaf debutante, or maybe her mother's deaf and she's speaking sign language, but they're speaking sign language to each other. We also see a little bit later, a little bit more representation for people with disabilities with the guy in the wheelchair, which I'll get to in episode 2. But yeah, just a little addition there that stood out to me. Eloise making fun of Colin and clocking him, you know, that will never get old. I actually really love his waistcoat and cravat in this scene. Oh my god, it's so colorful. We really don't see a lot of green or like mint green cravats, so that was new. And then it was like very floral and colorful on his waistcoat. I love to see it. I love to see men in color. Like, why are we putting men in the exact same colors all the time? Can they have a little fun? But this is also the first hint to a parallel dynamic and story arc for Eloise and Colin going on, because he points out that she has all these ruffles and that's not her. She says it's, you know, the style of the season. He clocks her as well and is like, since when do you care about the style of the season, girl? And so you see that they're going on a parallel journey of really trying to fit in despite their better instincts. Then we cut to Francesca before she's being presented. The birthmark above her lip is just such elite casting. It's not even funny. Like her and Phoebe Dynevor. Absolutely. Absolutely. The casting on the show is so elite, it's not even funny, because not only do they get people who fit the character so well, but all of them really look like they could be related. It's so believable. It's so plausible. It is so fucking good. Like, I don't even know what to say about it. We love to see Viscount, Viscountess being proud and then being worried. I love to just see them, period. So any type of emotion that is crossing their face, any type of thing that they're dealing with, I am like, absolutely, thank you for giving it to me. I love to see them. There were a few scenes with Colin in particular where I'm pretty sure that some of these scenes were reshoots, and I believe he cut his hair at that point, so I think he's wearing a wig, because those shots stand out to me a lot. I think the shot where he's winking could be one of those shots. I could be wrong about that, but to me, it doesn't look like the rest of his hair. There are just a few shots where I'm like, okay, wig. I am like, okay, wig. I'm like, that is simply not coming from your head, sir. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not coming from your head. Did anybody else notice that? I'm sorry. It did stand out to me. But yeah, the winking, disgusting. I hate to see it. Brother, ew. Okay, so then getting into the garden party, you know, we get an introduction to both of the Featherington husbands. They're not even himbos. I don't know what to call them. They're on another level. We need to formulate another word specifically to describe them. Portia says the thing about not letting men control their lives, and then they have a, like, look to each other.
Without any man telling us what to do. Let us enjoy this day.
There's actually a lot of moments between the two of them that I noticed kind of in the background, which are very funny. But yeah, they have no idea what's going on. They're simps. They're hilarious. I love them. They're actually so entertaining to me. And it just makes sense. This is inconsequential, but the flower arrangements at this garden party are so beautiful. Oh my god, the colors! Did anybody else notice? Not the yassification of Miss Margaret Goring. Be for fucking real. What is going on? I personally really value them serving above them looking historically accurate, right? Like, as long as they're slaying, I'm like, historical accuracy, like, it doesn't matter. I just need them to be serving. But there were a few times that did kind of take me out a little bit, especially with the highlighter. The highlighter's really heavy this season. Heavy bronzer, I feel like, as well. And obviously, like, whenever there's a fake lash, that stands out to me a lot as well. But not, like, really enough for it to take away from the experience or, like, take away my enjoyment. Again, first and foremost, for me personally, I don't care if it's historically accurate. I would like for them to look good. So as long as they do, I don't really care. But it is something that I did notice a little bit more this season than the other seasons. The expressions on Penelope and Eloise's faces when they see each other again, just so sweet, so tender. I was really, like, surprised by the route that they went down with that, where it is more just, like, coming from a place of love and hurt than anger. I had expected them to really kind of be angry at each other and be bitter, which they are to some extent. But just seeing that the prevalent emotion was affection for each other was very touching and a little surprising, and I love to see it. And then, of course, we see, you know, Eloise rescue Pen from Cressida's bullying, which that's loaded in and of itself, but you can see that there's obviously still a care and affection between the two of them. There's a little scene setting Franny apart from the rest of the debutantes. They're all talking about what they want. She says she wants someone that's kind, and they all, like, laugh at her, which I was like, how dare you? How dare you? Also, Clara Livingston, who I expected to be a slay, probably just because she's stunning, she's a little bitch. She's a bitch. And she's taking up that mantle real well, you know what I mean? She's sliding right in there. They're like, okay, Cressida redemption arc, we need to have another mean girl. Claire Livingston to the rescue. There's a lot of mentions to everyone being really weirded out by the relationship between Eloise and Cressida, rightfully so. I also found Violet's commentary on the way that she behaved with Eloise in particular really interesting in that scene. She's talking about how she really pushed her and she felt like the inevitable outcome where she did get ruined and she had kind of like gone off the beaten path or whatever had been her fault, so she's trying to do the opposite and stay out of it and mind her business in this instance. It's interesting to see that kind of reflection there. Overall, though, I really do like the scene between Violet and Kate. It's very cute. Mother and daughter-in-law finally having a relationship, the two Viscountesses, the two Lady Bridgertons, them getting like mixed up about who Lady Dimru was referring to is super cute. I love to see it. It was super cute. Although some of the dialogue I was like, okay, tooting your own horn, okay, doing a little retcon. They're like, Violet's always understood everyone. Flashback to season 1 and 2. Okay. And then Lady Dimru is talking about the queen, like, holding a grudge about being wrong or picking wrong, like, with Edwina. And then she's like, well, of course everything worked out in the end. And, like, the little, like, huh.
But of course, it all worked out in the end. I would not worry.
I was like, this is not a joke. This is my life. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you boil it down to one little line where you say, it all worked out. That was pain and suffering. That was unnecessary pain and suffering all season 2. Okay? Oh, worked out. Yeah, better have. Anyway. The flirting is just so bad. And it's supposed to be. Don't get me wrong. It's supposed to be. And I'm aware of that. But it's truly really gross. It's really gross. I don't know what to say. Like, I'm like, ooh, okay. Oh, God, what was it? Flowers in Bloom? Get out of here. From whence you came, return. Like, I don't want you here. Talking about, oh, your dance card should be full of suitors, and oh, there's so many men that are gonna be, so many beautiful ladies. And it's like an SNL sketch. Like, I'm like, well, who are you? And he's like, I can't compete. And oh, if I if I told you about my travels, then I'd have to marry you. And then he's like, he thought he ate. He really thought he ate. And you know what? Unfortunately, those sweet young ladies led him to believe that he did eat. I am here to tell you and him, he did not, in fact, eat in those scenes. He did the opposite, actually. But he really thought he ate that. Every little self-satisfied smirk and, like, the way he was looking at all of them, like, changing his eye contact, he's like, he's like, wait till they get a load of this. Wait until I mention marriage. And then he's, like, looking at all of them, like, seeing their reactions. I'm like, okay. Although, I mean, who's to say, like, if I was face-to-face with Colin Bridgerton in this time and he was saying something like that to me. No, I don't think I would like it, because if if the minimum amount of people that he's doing that to is like 3 or 4, I'm not gonna feel like any type of way about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if you're having to say all these things to like minimum 4 women at once, I don't really feel like you mean that. I don't really feel that honored by that. So then we have Pen and Colin's first interaction of the season, and she says that he looks distinguished, which if you watch my Pollen relationship analysis, she calls him distinguished in season 2, and that was actually a really big moment because all of his family's actually like making fun of his physical appearance when he comes back from Greece, like he's tan, he has a beard and that type of stuff, and they're all like joking with him about it, and Pen takes a moment to be like, I think he looks distinguished, which again, that's something that Colin really wants to be seen as and described as, but unfortunately, really no one other than Penn sees him that way or describes him that way. So the use of distinguished as a particular descriptor was very interesting to me because they had already used it before. I wondered if that was intentional or not. If it isn't, regardless, it's a happy coincidence. I'm like, Penn, stand up! But also, I get you. She's the lover girl through and through. Like, and so am I. So I really cannot judge. I cannot judge her for one single second. One single solitary second, I cannot judge her. She's probably better than me, in fact, unfortunately, embarrassingly. But she leaves. You know what I mean? She cuts out the conversation. I also thought his line, when all is said and done, it's merely clothing, was very interesting. I wonder if that's a bit of foreshadowing to this whole kind of arc where it's like, it's a mask, it's a front, it's something that you put on and it's not real, and underneath it all, you know, he's still the same Colin. And the same could be said for Pen as well, because even though she gets a new wardrobe and a new kind of look, like she's still Pen. I noticed this after multiple watches, but this was in the background is so funny. Albion, Mr. Finch, is like stopping Mr. Dankworth from like like walking with Prudence. Like he's trying to like catch up with them. He's like, no, don't. Just stay back here. Like let them do their thing. Like, and I'm like, okay, walk them like dogs. I kind of live for that. And also, be mindful of why you're invited to the function. That's the epitome of these two. And you know what? I can really appreciate men who are mindful of why they were invited to the function and the section. It's just really funny. They're both like so kind of like in over their head, clueless, and like, but also kind of total simps, and they're just funny. They're just really funny to me. And the whole scene was funny with them like all talking about like Philippa talking about Portia's like, go make some airs, and she's like, can we have a little bit of pudding first? So relatable. So true and real, Queen. Like, that's so funny to me. And, oh my god, and then Prudence, like, Dankworth, like, approaches her and she, like, slaps him away and, like, jerks away from him. It's just too good. It really is very funny. Then they put a button on that particular scene with Portia saying to Penelope that she is glad that she'll always be there for her, and implies, you know, that she's thinking, oh, you'll be here to take care of me in my old age, and that is a direct reference from the book. Fun fact. That is absolutely something that they talked about in the book. So at the modiste, I thought the description from Penelope of her sisters as the most simple or cruel people that she ever has known was really interesting. And I mean, I guess it kind of sums them up. Really, and you can tell which is which. It makes sense. She doesn't want to be at their whim. She doesn't want to be at her mom's whim anymore. She wants to have some freedom. And it's interesting because, you know, the life that she leads as Whistledown, she is so independent. She is so powerful, but nobody knows about it. So living a double life like that, it's just interesting how they don't really connect. They don't seep into each other. And I think she's trying to merge more of that a little bit. And then she talks about what she wants in a husband, and she says that she wants someone kind and someone who would allow for her privacy. Queen, you know, Colin, you'll be getting kind from Colin. You will not be getting privacy from Colin. You will not be getting a single moment's rest. That man will be attached to your hip. He will never leave your side. Privacy? Colin, my wife Bridgerton? Privacy where? And then we go back to the Bridgerton house. Colin is actually so sweet for getting all of his siblings, like, individualized presents. That's so nice. I think that is another thing that, like, kind of nods to his more thoughtful, like, caring nature. And you could tell that he really thought each one out. Like, he had reasoning behind why he got each one for each person. It was just very sweet. Oh my god, the little moment between Francesca and Colin here is so fucking cute, and I'm so glad that they put it in. And what's crazy about it is it's zero dialogue. They don't say a single thing, but just the touch of the arm as she's, like, passing by him tells you so much. It's just so sweet. It's so good. And then Eloise comes in and he's talking about the book that he got her, which I'm like, Colin, he got her a book, one he knows, like, her reading. And then he said it was a rare Bavarian text on the rights of, and then he was interrupted, but I'm pretty sure he was gonna say, like, women's rights, because she had that whole arc last season where, like, he knew that she was reading those pamphlets on women's rights and, like, was kind of discouraging her against it. But now coming back with this, like, really thinking about something that she would like. And I didn't love that she, like, shut him down. Like, I was like, okay, Jane Austen, Emma, like, absolutely, you should be reading that. But, like, why couldn't you just, like, say thank you to your brother? Like, I don't know why we had to interrupt him. But I also find it very interesting that she referred to the romances as, like, women being independent or, like, making their own way in the world, that she feels like now she has a more realistic view of things, whereas, like, before she had a romantic view of things, when she used to think that, like, more was possible. Now she's accepted that more isn't possible, and she's living her life according to that. There's also a delicious little parallel of Colin saying, what of Penelope? I will edit them together here.
But what of him? What of Colin?
What of Penelope?
What of Colin?
It's glorious. This is the first time where they kind of, like, explicitly acknowledge the parallel journeys that Colin and Eloise are on. She says that she lost the battle and has no appetite for the war, and so she joined the winning side, which I thought was a very interesting metaphor to describe all of it, and it made me really understand, like, where she was coming from immediately. I was like, I see. She's been beaten down, you know what I mean? She's like, okay, well, I might as well try and play along and see where that gets me, because all this other stuff, this rebellion has not been doing me any good. And then she points out to Colin, not unlike you, and then she's like, or is this the real you? And he's like, oh, man's gotta keep his secrets, and she gags him with the must be lonely at the end. I was like, oop. Didn't have to clock his tea like that. Actually, she did, and she should. And I love her for that. Then Eloise and Pen run into each other at the Modiste. There's a lot more tenderness in their interactions than I had been expecting. Also, like, Penelope apologizing. I really didn't expect her to do that. I thought she would be kind of, like, indignant or resistant. Eloise keeping the secret. Like, all of it tugs at the heartstrings. You can tell that both of them are really distraught about this, and they really do love each other, and they do care about each other, and they miss each other. But it's just, like, it's such an unfortunate predicament that they're in. Then we go to Will's bar with the ABC brothers, and Anthony looks so unbelievably good in this scene. No wonder they had to ship him on out of there. He's too powerful. He is too powerful to remain on screen too much. Benedict's kind of like newfound resistance to marriage or the marriage mart in general. He really before hasn't participated in it, but now he's very adamantly against it, which I find very interesting. They're making that a focal point of this season, him running from Debutante. He says something in this scene that indicates that he's really against marriage at this point in time, which is interesting. And then Anthony compliments Colin on like all his admirers, and Colin says that he's not sure that's supposed to cheer him, which again, well, the real Colin slipped out. Just for a second, the real Colin slipped out. What do you mean? What do you mean, Mr. Charmer? Mr. Riz? What do you mean? That shouldn't cheer you. Will and Alice get the news about their son at the end of that scene, becoming a baron. Then we cut to Anthony. Again, I truly never thought I'd see the day. It is surreal. I had made my peace with it. I was like, okay, we're never gonna see them together again. Certainly not in this manner. How delightful it is to be proven wrong. They're crazy. They're just crazy. The position alone that they're in is crazy. They're so obsessed with each other, it's not even funny. Like, I'm like, you guys are literally intertwining every single part of your body that you could possibly intertwine. The choreography of that whole scene, I'm like, y'all are nuts. Y'all are freaks for that. And I love to see it. But them in hand stuff. I mean, they're the king and queen of hand stuff. I have a bunch of notes for the scene. I thought the little lingerie dress was a very interesting choice. Makes sense to me. But then there was that parallel to them holding hands from season 2, episode 7, You Will Always Be Famous. The interruption is funny. You know, it shows like a peek into married life and also them being the heads of the household with so many people around them. Anthony's muffled ignore them had me dead. Like, I can't. This man is so funny. And then the little, like, quip that he has about, like, nothing could be as important about what's happening right here. And then he says, making an heir, be for fucking real, and she calls him out on that. Like, I just love seeing them happy and witty and bantering and just, like, laughing together like it's what they deserve. Now onto the Four Seasons ball. Damn, are the maids cosmetologists or what? Because, like, how are they doing hair, makeup, clothing, and, like, I mean, they do everything. These maids. Give them a raise, for real. Stylistically, you know, they had the dreamy lens flare, they had the slow fades over each other, they had the zoomed in shots on all the sparkles and the jewelry and the makeup and things like that. Very much mystical, romantic, alluding to this big transformation. That is how they chose to do it stylistically. It was good. There's a tiny little moment between Fran and Anthony as they walk into the ball where he like comforts her, which was super cute. I find it so funny that Pen was fully about to walk into the ballroom with her cloak still on. After all that, Pen? After all that? Walk in with your cloak on?
Pardon me, miss. We failed to collect your cloak.
But yeah, I mean, she descends the grand staircase. It's a classic little reveal moment. Everybody's shocked and shook. Albion is so cute in this. Mr. Fitch, he's so excited and happy for her. Oh my god, and he's like, it's not us.
It is not us they stare at.
And then we hear Colin's audio where he says something. He's like, I told the Contessa that back in my homeland, we don't... Finish the sentence, Colin. I would like to hear the rest of it. Back in your homeland, you don't what? What did you tell the Contessa? But I was even more happy to see him just be absolutely pathetic. He's so hot when he's pathetic. That look... Yeah, take a sip of that drink. This man is dehydrated this whole season. He really can't function. He can't function, he can't hang. He stops mid-sentence. His friends are looking at him sideways. He's not slick. He's not subtle. And I love him for that. Eloise is funny as always. They do a little bit with her being not like other girls, but I actually did like how they did it. And showing her, like, trying to fit in a little bit more, which was very interesting, but then, like, longingly looking at Penelope across the room. Penelope, meanwhile, is just... bombing. It's a tough watch. It's a little unbearable. But again, period comedic chops, Nicola. I also did love that Penelope's demeanor remains the exact same. She's still skirting the edges of the ballroom. She like is not talking to anybody. She's not approaching anybody. She still is very shy and withdrawn and still acting like a wallflower, right? So even though these people are noticing her physical transformation, she hasn't changed the way that she acts or carries herself or her confidence at all. That juxtaposition is very evident in this as well. Also, Claudia Jessie, the woman that you are, the actor that you are, the comedian that you are, the inflections and facial expressions at every single turn are so fucking brilliant. She is so good. And I actually truly do not think that she gets enough credit for all of the comedic heavy lifting that she does in this show in every single season. She plays things so well. It's so engaging. It's so entertaining. It's really impressive how just little vocal inflections or little tiny expressions or a twitch of an eyebrow or whatever can really like elevate a scene. And she's so good at doing that. Lady Damery and the Queen have their, like, thing. They have their dynamic. Lady Damery is an instigator, pushing the Queen, trying to participate in society. She's a rebel. She doesn't know who Penn is somehow.
Miss Francesca, tell us, what are your hobbies?
Get out of here, Fife. Fife comes up to Francesca. Get away from her. Get a job. Leave her alone. In this house, we don't stand Fife, okay? The whole really, like, intense, what do you desire, despise, what makes you tick? I'm like, Jesus. Like, no fucking wonder she's nervous and anxious and doesn't want to be here. That's such a crazy thing for your first conversation to be that. And they're all like, there was something very like, like animalistic about it. Like they were just like on bated breath, like waiting to pounce or something. It was very, yeah, predator prey type thing. The gender dynamics, I feel like, were very evident there. She was very outnumbered, intimidated, and I just didn't like a single second of it. I'm glad that she got out of there. Fran and Penn's scene was so fucking good. They have a lot of similarities. It's also interesting because we'd never seen them interact on screen, but obviously they are familiar with each other. It's also nice to see Penn interacting with another Bridgerton sister, even though obviously all of them know that her and Eloise have had a falling out, but Francesca approaches Penn, they relate, they talk to each other about their respective places in society and their families and the similarities that they have, the differences. I loved Penn's line, like, once you're on the wall, it's hard to get off. That was really great. Again, yet another kind of like thesis statement for some of the themes of the season. I also liked Francesca's line about expecting conversation, but not expecting to be inspected like an insect under a microscope. That was very interesting and gave me a lot of insight into, you know, why she feels the way that she does, like why she's so uncomfortable. The line that they use in the trailer where, you know, Bridgertons were born to attract notice, but for some of us notice is very slight, yet another really good kind of thematic statement to sum up all of this. But the tables are turning, Ben. Also, you're about to be Bridgerton, so little do you know. I also like the little Uno reverse that Francesca pulled at the end of that conversation, giving Penn a taste of her own medicine, giving her her own advice. We love to see it. Again, hinting to like, despite her being introverted and a little shy and a little, like, uncomfortable, like, she is witty, she's quick, she's with it. Not Penn shoving ice cream in her face as a way to cope for how horribly the night has been going. She's real and relatable for that. She really is. She is real and relatable for that. I, too, would do the same. I really found Debling catching on to the social dynamics at play where, like, he picks up on the fact that that girl is sneering and kind of, like, shames her a little bit, wards her off. They have a conversation about how, like, she's received much more withering looks, hers is mediocre, and then he says something like, you know, why do I feel like you could make one wither if you wanted to? I was like, I was gagged by that. I really was. And I was like, okay, we're setting the blueprint, we're setting up the foundation, and I love to see it. Because, like, there's almost no one who has, like, seen Penn that way, so it was very interesting that he clocked into that particular quality of hers because it is so invisible to so many people, especially knowing her so little. Eloise feels terrible about the Cressida thing. I thought her little...
And I'm so sorry.
It was so cute and sweet. Again, I'm like, y'all are in love with each other, just kiss on the mouth. Like, I don't... Not actually, but kind of. What are y'all doing? Penn in these Bridgertons, she's got them wrapped around her finger, and she's obsessed with them too. Like, why aren't we just all being obsessed with each other? They're the ones separating themselves from each other. Again, the real Colin slips out as he gets distracted from the conversation. He's not wanting to engage in it. He's really getting backhanded compliments from these so-called friends of his where they're talking about, you know, oh, you're fun this season, and oh, you're interesting this season, that type of thing. And it's like, oh, great, well, I'm actually fully pretending to be someone that I'm not. So that's great to know that, you don't like me when I'm actually me. Fuck my drag then, I guess. But he can't help it. He runs after her. Like, I don't know how people don't see how much he runs after her. Do you know what I mean? It's so improper in so many ways, but like, he care so much. It's really kind of crazy that people don't clock onto it. Not even just in the universe, but within the general audience as well. I'm like, he's always chasing after her. He's always seeking her out. You know, like there is an affection there that I feel like people really are a little dense about. But it's pretty obvious to me. Drops everything to go run after her and try to talk to her and see if she's okay and worried about her. And can't think or breathe or do anything until he makes sure that she's okay. 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 But no, he doesn't. He doesn't have any kind of feelings for her. I already broke down their, Goodnight Mr. Bridgerton scene on this channel before, but, it's such a slay. It's such a slay. I might do an even more in-depth breakdown of that at some point, but it's everything. I did clock in that he's very hurt specifically by the line about her saying that he's embarrassed by her. He is, like, dumbfounded by that accusation. He's like, what are you talking about? And I'm also like, what are you talking about, Ben? Like, I get why she might come to that conclusion, but it's just simply, like, not true. And there's really no evidence to suggest it, if you actually look at it. Pen, she's in her Regina George era. She's going home. Colin Bridgerton is a fugly slut. Do not trust him. That type of thing. I thought the graphics were very interesting in the scene. This is the first time that they've done this particular graphic where they have the writing overlaying over the shot of Pen, the wide shot of Pen, and having the words kind of stream across the screen. I thought that was very interesting. Again, I mean, it's a way to make some of these things more visually intriguing, especially if they are repeated throughout the series, like a writing of Lady Whistledown. But I'm also like, Queen, you don't have to publish it. I'm like, Pen could really benefit from like having a private journal, because I'm a writer too. The way that I have just eviscerated some people, but I'm not gonna air that out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna keep that to myself. Like, it's for my own sake and well-being. Yeah, I think she needs a little bit of, like, some more boundaries between, like, what should be shared and what shouldn't be, but you know what? It's too late. She's already done it. Cressida and Eloise have a conversation, and Cressida seems very surprised by Eloise not liking what she did to Penelope, which I thought was fascinating, especially the line and the line delivery specifically of, I thought we didn't like Penelope.
I thought we did not like Penelope.
I'm not saying at all that they were trying to do this, but it read sort of like a neurodivergent type of thing where you're like, you're missing social cues, or you're really like kind of confused about the nuances of certain things. You're seeing things kind of black and white. And it made me have a better understanding, I think, of like Cressida's viewpoint. Like, she seemed genuinely confused. She's like, wait, but I thought we didn't like them, so we treat them bad. As if the two have to coexist, or like there can't be any nuance in between the two of them, and whether that's her upbringing or just like the way that she thinks, or societally what's been imposed on her. It's just very interesting to think about like her thought process there, where she's like, wait, I thought that was the right thing to do. Like, I thought that's what you do. I thought we didn't like her, so I thought being mean to her is what you do. It's just very interesting insight into her character and her psyche a little bit more. This whole conversation between Cressida and Eloise is really fascinating. There are some moments where I'm like, did not accept my suit. Are they going there? Is this what they're going for? I don't know. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, but like, I could see it. There are some loaded and coded things in their scenes, especially on Cressida's part. And also, it shows like there are things that they connect on. There are things that they're compatible with. Eloise is surprised that she understands that like the society in the Ton pits women against each other, and she thought that nobody else had noticed that, but Cressida had. So it was very interesting to see their bond and like connection and it actually being somewhat valid. And then we have Kate. Okay, Viscountess, hard at work. Yeah, they're just everything to me. Like, they're so hot and sexy. They're so beautiful. They're perfect together. They're soulmates. They're the best couple ever. They raised me. Those are my parents, for real, for real. You know, it is a bit of a cop-out, especially, it's funny, like, the way that it was worded, that scene, like, let's go on a honeymoon again. Like, I'm like, okay, they're getting Kate and Antony out of here for some episodes. That's convenient. But with the arc that they really focused on of both of them being so parentified, like, it makes sense. And I love that when Kate was talking about taking care of Edwina and her household, like, the expression that Antony had.
Well, I have already spent years taking care of Edwina and running the Sharma household.
Johnny Bailey, the actor that you are, yet again, constantly raising the bar for us all. Like, it's crazy. And you just see that connection and that, not the trauma bonding. The trauma bonding is so real between the two of them. And you know what? After the hellish season that they had, you know what? I would rather them be off-screen and happy than on-screen and unhappy. So I am not thrilled, I guess. I would have liked to see more, but I'm also not really bothered by them being off-screen for a little bit again as well. It does make me interested how they're going to handle the rest of the seasons, though. I am on my knees begging and praying for them to return every season. I mean, come on. Him kicking her legs apart with his knees was just crazy behavior. It was nasty business. Like, I was like, and I couldn't expect anything less from Anthony Bridgerton. Francesca's side-eye at Violet's musical metaphor was so funny. She's like, girl, you're trying to relate to me right now, and you think I need a metaphor to do that? She's like, you think that I can only understand things through the lens of my hyperfixation? Girl. But her saying she doesn't need to feel butterflies yet again, setting her apart from the rest of her family and all of their love matches, and her outlook on what she wants out of life and love and a partner. Yet again, raise a real one, give her a raise for so many reasons. I mean, for arranging these little rendezvous, helping a girl out, come on. But also, I mean, all the work that she does. She's a hairstylist, she's a makeup artist, she's a dresser, she's a confidant, she's a chaperone. Like, what isn't she doing? Does she actually also, like, clean the house? That's crazy. Or is she just a companion? Someone let me know. She's just a real one. I just think she's iconic and legendary for that. Yes, let them be alone on Chaperone. Like, of course. She's probably clocked it. She's like, okay, I'll let y'all be. He says, I'm very sorry for my callous comment, which is right on. I'm like, yeah, it was callous. You should be very sorry, for sure. Him saying that he doesn't want to see her upset, and then her responding with, perhaps you shouldn't have come. Perhaps you shouldn't have come is crazy. I was like, whew, this won't last long, Queen, but you got him. You got him there. That's terrible. He does look very pained and ashamed, though. I mean, his facial expressions throughout this, even more so than his words, convey the vibe that I was really wanting from him about this whole situation. Apology? More like declaration of undying love. Also, it's literally hilarious because the way that dialogue is nearly identical to the whole Colin relationship analysis that I did, where I was like, he seeks her out all the time because he's comfortable with her and he can laugh with her and like all this type of stuff. I'm like, Colin, the lights are on, nobody's home, because how are you declaring the intricacies of your relationship the same way that I did in my relationship analysis of y'all a couple weeks ago, and then standing there saying, I'll help you find a husband. But I love it. I do. I love that they're acknowledging it and making it like canon. It's not just like an unspoken thing or an inferred thing. Like, he straight up said it. So it's official. Him sitting down, he is so ridiculous. Not the knee touches. Get out of her personal space. Again, Colin literally has no perception of personal space, especially when it comes to Penelope. This is Penelope. She likes her personal space. This is Colin. He also likes Penelope's personal space. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. He's always up in her business. He's up in her grill. He's up in her business. He cannot not be in her business. And it's just, you know, it's just a matter of time before people, like, realize that. And realize that it's always been that way. You know what I mean? I'm like, why are you always so close to her? Get away from her. Why are you always approaching her? Why are you always being so improper trying to see her and talk to her? Also, some people pointed this out, you know, the fact that he says to Penn that he went to 17 cities, whereas, like, his siblings asked him earlier how many cities he went to, and he was like, oh, I've lost count, whereas, like, with Penn, it's a more, you know, he has kept count, he knows exactly how many cities he's been in, and he's being honest with her, he's being more vulnerable, open side of himself. That's an interesting take. I was really proud of Penn for calling him out and clocking the impropriety. When she said, like, I can't have you whispering in my ear at every ballroom, I was like, say it. Speak on it. Speak on it, because this is crazy that nobody is talking about this. And it's about time. It's about time that Colin realized that. I wish there would have been a little bit more of that in the season. Like, again, him being, like, super weirded out by not being able to, like, call her Pen or, like, you know, come up to her in a ballroom. Like, she's like, girl, I'm courting. You can't be, like, talking to me. And he's like, but I want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, that type of thing where he's, like, really struggling and realizing that all along this behavior that he's been doing this entire time, once it's taken away from him or he's not allowed to do it, he's like, I guess that was really improper, and I guess that was not just friend vibes, because I kind of was being a little improper. Oh well. I loved the line that he ends it with where he says, I want nothing more than to earn back the favor of the one person who's truly made me feel appreciated. I just was like, yes. Yes, this is exactly what I said. This is exactly what I thought. And I love to be proven right. Like, I'm just like, yeah, It's that exactly. And I find it extremely interesting that, especially in their time apart, Colin has also realized this. He has also come to realize that Pen is literally the only person in his life that has always consistently been there for him and made him feel appreciated and worthy. Which again, it depends on how the latter half of the season goes, but I hope that they have some reference to this. That Colin started having that realization and revelation during like the summer that he was away, so then it really leads in nicely to once they have the physical connection, he's like, oh, he's there. He's fully cooked, finally. Are We Not Friends is a crazy scapegoat excuse to touch her. You're not slick, Colin. I'm familiar with your game. I see you. Triggering. Not Pen like simping immediately after, like she's literally seeing the hills are alive, like she's like tee hee 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 looking at the sun, like basking like the second he leaves, which I find very interesting because the line delivery of friends when she's like agreeing that they are friends very much gives the vibe that she's like given up on them, like she's like, yeah, we're friends. But then once he leaves, she's like, it's a perfect day, like looking at the sun, and I'm like, is she like hopeful for there to be a rekindling? Is she hopeful that he might grow feelings, or is it just that she feels like he's been a stranger this entire time and she's glad to see the Colin that she knows, the sweet, vulnerable, generous Colin, back? I wonder what her kind of like reaction there is totally about. But that quickly gets interrupted by her realizing that, ooh, I just kind of completely released an issue that was really derogatory about you, so that's not great. You know, Pen really might have a death wish, because the way that she antagonizes Charlotte is crazy. She needs to stop doing that. But it's funny, I guess. Actually, they could lean into the humor of that a little bit more, like this like young girl and the Queen of England, like, you know, beefing with her and spending all her time like trying to find her and figure her out. Meanwhile, like Pen's just like, your move, your majesty, like, you're sir, we'll see what she does. Like she's taunting her. She's like, this is a little fun to the game. I wonder if her sisters know about her feelings for Colin. They must in some capacity, right? Because Philippa says to her when she comes in that, you know, Colin specifically, your Bridgertons that you love so much, and Colin specifically is mentioned in Whistledown, and I thought that was a very interesting kind of thing. The way that she delivered the line, I was like, okay, so they're aware of how she feels, which is so funny to me, because I'm like, okay, again, Kate is the only Bridgerton with a brain cell, a singular brain cell. All of them put together do not even amount to the one brain cell that Kate has. I wouldn't be surprised if she's like the only one that clocked onto it. Like she's the only one that's not surprised or something like that, because sure as hell no, Eloise and Colin are surprised about the turn of events. Pen says, like, Lady Whistledown has never been more wrong about anything or anyone or something like that, but I was like, but you're actually speaking facts. Everything that she said was factually correct. It was true. I thought that was very interesting that she was, like, backtracking on that, where I'm like, no, that was an accurate assessment of his behavior as of recently. He is putting on a front, and he is, you know, going for attention, and he is acting like something that he's not. Stylistically, this was yet another little touch that I liked. They had the voiceover of Lady Whistledown reading the column as Eloise was reading it, and then they stopped it.
And then there are some who take the embrace of change a step too far.
Good afternoon, sister.
And once Colin picked up the column to read it yet again, they repeated the line of dialogue that they had just, like, stopped on.
And then there are some who take the embrace of change a step too far.
Which I'm pretty positive they haven't done before. So that was interesting to see them put an actual pause on the narration and then rewinding a little bit and doing it from the perspective of Colin reading it for the first time. I thought that was a nice little touch. Again, these things are so common in the show that it's nice to have little things that make them unique or different. This scene is so funny with both of them. Like, both of them, the physical comedy on Luke and Claudia in this scene is so funny.
Brother, afternoon. Where were you?
Nowhere. What are you reading?
Nothing.
The little head tilts, the way that they look at each other, the drop in expression, like they're like, they just are seeing each other so clearly, they can't hide, but they're trying to. That whole thing was just actually hilarious. It made me laugh out loud. It was so good. They killed that. And also, again, you know, hinting to their sibling relationship. It was very siblings of them. It was just perfect. It was perfection. Ooh, the mention of Marina was so messy. I was hoping to God that this man was not gonna invoke Marina's name this season. Especially Because last season, he couldn't wrap his brain around the fact that, oh, he can't call her Marina. He can't even call her Miss Thompson because she's Lady Crane. Like, he kept doing that, and it was so crazy. Like, it was actually just so crazy. It was so, it wasn't intentionally disrespectful, but it was disrespectful. It was so out of touch. It was so, like, Colin, give it a rest. Like, let it go. You are beating a dead horse. It was so actually, like, cringy of Colin. It was very, like, showed his immaturity and his insecurity. Just his mindset, which was, like, icky. It was like, oh, Colin, why are you still, like, trying to hold on to the idea of you and Marina being together? Like, what are you talking about? Move on. Get a life. Get a life. It was never even real in the first place, which is really what's frustrating about it. Not so much that, like, he has this feeling, but I'm like, girl, you didn't even love her, and you're gonna know that soon, but as of yet, he doesn't know that. So him mentioning Marina and calling her Miss Thompson, specifically, I was like, ooh. And I think I have a live reaction to this where my face, like, I was like, ooh, Colin, are we doing this again? Are we doing this again? I can't keep defending you.
Miss Thompson, I mean, Lady Crane.
But he corrected himself quickly, so I'm sure. Then he's like, oh yeah, and you, that she ruined Miss Thompson and you. Now, this is one of my probably least favorite lines, if not my least favorite line of the whole episode, because I just think it's so clunky. The line where he says, I will never forgive her. Be serious. Be serious for 2 seconds. It's just so, doesn't even make sense. It stuck out like a sore thumb to me because I was like, okay, so a writer is writing this, trying to prepare everyone for the narrative that's about to come and to foreshadow to later events in the season. But it's just, it doesn't make sense for him to say that because he doesn't know who she is. So how does he know that he would even have a relationship with her in which he would need to forgive her? How does he know that he doesn't even know this person? You know what I mean? Like, it could be someone that he's literally never met or talked to. So why would there be a need for forgiveness or desire? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm like, okay, so you're setting up that he's never going to forgive Pen, because the audience knows that Pen is Lady Whistledown, but it doesn't make sense for Colin, without that knowledge, to be saying something that intense and in that way. I thought the second line that they did, which was pretty much the exact same thing, where he was saying, like, if I ever find out who she is, I'll ruin her life, that was perfect. That was good. But the I'll never forgive her was very clunky. I was like, okay, guys. It just didn't make any actual sense for Colin to be saying it realistically. But I love the ending of this episode, that little cliffhanger. They introduced this at the very last second. The conflict of the season, they're giving enemies to lovers and friends to lovers in one, and they don't even know it. And I love that. Also, Angry Colin. Angry Colin coming home. Except not as bad as the book, but he you know, he's getting in there. He's getting his time to shine. And I would be lying if I said I didn't find it attractive. Again, like the classic music crescendo at the end. Bridgerton, so classic, so quintessential. It set up everything really well. So yeah, overall, good episode. That is pretty much my breakdown. Believe it or not, I have even more thoughts than these. I don't even know how many videos I'm going to do on things in the future, but generally speaking, those are my thoughts. So yeah, that was my season 3 episode 1 breakdown. Let me know if you caught any of these things, if there are things that I missed that you want me to talk about, your opinions of episode 1. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below, and I will see you for yet another Bridgerton video. Surprise, surprise! Surprise of the century! Very soon.